Welcome back to the Storytellers Forge, the show where we take a deep dive into all things TTRPG. Today is a fun and exciting day. I am really happy to have our guest with us. Somebody I know personally outside of this, and it was great when their team linked us up for this show. We have the multi-talented, prolific creator, podcast producer, writer, actual play professional, so many other accolades. You are quite truly the jack of all trades, but your name's not Jack, it's Jeff. We have the one and only Jeff Stormer here with us today.
Hello, it is such a pleasure to be here. It's so funny when I hear things laid out like that. I'm like, damn, that guy did a lot of things. Good for him.
Yeah. I mean, it's right there on your own site.
That's true.
Did I miss anything?
No. I think that's about, other than world-renowned eggnog expert, but like that only comes up in around December.
It's right there. What an unprofessional garbage person I am. I can't believe I missed that. I mean, we should talk eggnog here. I love eggnog. You like eggnog? Do you?
I genuinely it's funny. For context, every December I host what I believe to be the world's only eggnog enthusiast podcast.
Okay.
And like I started it. I was talking about this year on the pod. I started it very much as a bit. Like I enjoy eggnog. I like drinking eggnog a lot, but like being like I'm going to host a podcast exclusively about questions about eggnog was a very funny bit. But now that I'm like 7 years into doing that, I actually have learned a lot about eggnog, and like it stopped being a bit at some point, and I'm really troubled by that.
Oh, I think some of the best art in the history of art has been created initially as a bit.
I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. And then you get to it's the moment. For me, it is true transcendence is the moment when something stops being a bit and you watch the sincerity slowly come in.
And it doesn't always happen that way. Case in point, anecdote from my own existence is I participated in 2020. There's a con called GeeklyCon. I'm a big fan of, and I'm good friends with the folks who run that. And we tried to do like a virtual con in 2020,
totally,
where we just would line up a bunch of like digital panels and some of them were just actual plays. But me and another delightful soul named Galen, this was a bit we were doing on social media, on Twitter, RIP, because Twitter's dead, but on old Twitter, on when it wasn't a cesspool.
I mean, it was still a cesspool.
I mean, it was bad, but
it was our cesspool.
Complaining about the bad of Twitter 5 years ago feels very
it's a different thing. Yeah. Like it was bad. Like it was really there's no better way to say it than it was a cesspool, but it was our cesspool. Like
it was our cesspool. Yeah.
It felt like we at least
there was some nuggets of gold in that cesspool. Now there's no nuggets. No nuggets in the cesspool.
It's been the crops have died and the earth has been salted, so nothing can grow there.
But we had a bit online about a product called pizza cereal, and then this happened, and then he reached out and he's like, do you want to do a panel where we actually like make pizza cereal digitally and taste test it? I'm like, what would that so we did, and we each made our own version of pizza cereal and ate it, and it was bad, and I'll never do it again.
Fair. You know what, but you tried it, and that's what matters.
Yeah. But I feel like I'm gonna have to bug you about that eggnog podcast, because I'm a huge fan. I love the flavor of it. I literally right now, as of us recording this, if you go up to my pantry, I have a whole shelf that's just like protein powders and stuff. I have an eggnog flavored protein powder.
That's fantastic. We have I think most of a bottle of eggnog left over from the holidays, and it's just going to get better the longer that it sits.
I mean, you would be the expert. You know what? I shouldn't second guess you. You're the expert. You heard it here from Jeff. Your eggnog ages like wine, kids.
Well, so here's the actual. I cannot believe that this is what I mean by this was at one point a bit, and now I know these things. Eggnog after about, I want to say it's between like 2 and 3 days, or possibly like 2 to 3 weeks. There's a point very like surprisingly early on where the alcohol, like in an alcoholic eggnog, where the alcohol sterilizes the cream, the eggs, everything to a point where it is completely sterilized. And so like aging it for, months is a reasonable thing, because it becomes There's no mold. There's no like anything. Like scientists have done the studies and proven that like I forget the exact number, but it's like relatively quickly immediately sterile, which means that like I had 6-month aged eggnog. Alton Brown recommends he age it for a year. I've had it a year. It was fine, but 6 months, it was like drinking a cloud. It was one of the greatest things I've ever had in my life.
Game.
And I was like troubled by that fact. Nothing.
Okay.
Soft, delicate, flavorful. Like it really tripped me up because I was like, it feels wrong. Like that feeling in the back of your mind, like I'm gonna die. Like I'm gonna die doesn't leave.
I mean, alcohol can do wonderful things like that. Are you familiar with what like a milk punch is? or clarified cocktails are?
Sure. Yeah.
You ever done that? It sounds disgusting and it looks disgusting in the process, but the end result is delightful.
It comes out wonderful. It comes out delicious. It's
I've done it, and then my wife's always like, "Just have it cleaned up in the morning, and you do all the straining and get it out of here. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see curdled like chunks of milk that's been sitting out all night."
It's great. That's one of those. There's a category of drinks that falls into. That is, I will order this at a bar because presumably, if it's on the menu at a bar, they have already done the work, and I can just enjoy the drink.
I've done it. It's not that hard. I've done them at home. I've done a couple different cocktails. I've done batches of clarified fat washed old fashions, daiquiris, like a Hemingway daiquiri, Mai Tais. They're good.
That sounds great. That sounds really good.
But we're not here to talk about eggnog or fat washing cocktails specifically. But we are here to primarily talk about your new book that has just come out, The Ultimate Fantasy Character Creator. But I want to just briefly give maybe a little bit of context or backstory to what gave you the idea or what brought you to this point where I'm a writer, you're a writer, there's people they write novels or they write TTRPG campaign books or setting guides. You decided to create a guide to help everyday folk create a fully fleshed out, complex, nuanced character. Not just for TTRPGs, but could theoretically be used in a story, a novel, a script, but it's very versatile. But I'm curious, why this? Like, what this is your first publication?
This is the first book in like actual stores. Like I've self-published some games and things, but this is the first one in like through like a real life publisher. And really like it's kind of just the culmination of the three things that I've been, doing in the world, in the creative space for the last 10 years in October. That number's going to keep getting closer and closer. Really, like, it comes down to, like, loving, tabletop games and play and creation and storytelling through play. It comes down to really enjoying, like, the act of making characters and imagining little guys and putting them in situations. I think I very literally in the book just use the phrase, put your little guy in situations at least once. But, like, and the third thing is really, to your point, like, I am a very big advocate for sharing or like introducing a love of role-playing games and storytelling games and things like that to people that have never experienced it before. That is one of my like great loves, great passions, great joys, getting to kind of like, this is my art. This is the thing that I kind of spent largely my whole life in and around and engaged with, and getting to show this to people and getting to like watch people fall in love with the art of storytelling through games in real time is one of my great joys in life. And so like getting to do a book very specifically that is, here are a bunch of exercises towards character creation, towards imagining a character and fleshing out their details, and really aiming it at, it's aimed at tabletop folks, but it's really aimed at people outside of our, indie RPG circles that are interested in this stuff. Like you mentioned, like authors, cosplayers, storytellers, LARPers, like all of these, this larger world around ourselves that like is people that enjoy telling stories and enjoy imagining worlds and imagining characters, getting to, and showing like, hey, like this art form that I've loved my whole life, like we're doing the same thing, and here are some of the exercises that we take from our experience in games to make those characters come to life.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally the best. And
there's nothing like it.
I think playing with people who are seasoned and are good improvers and you just click with is, of course, one of the best, most euphoric joys of life.
100%. 100%.
But that being said, playing with brand new players who you see that spark and that willingness to kind of lean in and and go with it and they might have definitely had reservations or preconceived notions of what D&D or a TTR, that's encompasses such a huge chunk of the landscape, or what a TTRPG is supposed to be. And then realizing what it really is. And my favorite, just if I were to describe it in a single phrase, I call it, it's collaborative improv storytelling.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And that too is very, very wondrous and just a really one of a kind experience.
It's recently we did an episode of Party of One, which is the podcast I produce. It's about 2-player role-playing games. I sit down with folks. We play a game. It's all self-contained. And we did an episode with the author, narrator, producer of like a narrative nonfiction podcast. He had played video games his whole life, but like when we pitched the show, he was like, I've never done anything like a role-playing game ever before. Like he's like, I've played Fallout. That's about the closest I've gotten to like a D&D experience. So we sat down, we played a game, and at the end of it, he just kind of quietly said to me, he's like, I think I've become addicted to this sort of storytelling. And to me, I felt like I could rip a phone book in half. Like that was one of the great moments of my life, was like getting to be like, yeah, I agree. You should be. This is one of my, like, this is the coolest thing in the world. You should love this. It's the best.
Crazy how much it, literally, I feel like the categories of like the happiest or like I've been or hardest times I've laughed and also the most emotion I've felt really fall into like very significant core moments with my family, like my wife, my children, or also fucking playing D&D. There was a really crazy study that said something about doing role-playing games. Your brain treats those experiences and files them like the same kind of tags them with the same coding essentially as like real memories.
Yeah, it's the best. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's the wildest, coolest thing in the world.
So obviously you are been doing this for a long time, and your passion for role-playing games is on full display. And then I think a lot of people aspire and they want to do something creative and create something. I'm just really curious because I like to tell stories. I love to tell stories. I'd say the primary things I write are either novels or like narrative campaigns, or I do professional DMing and stuff. So going through the story, this is such an important, I think, tool for, especially for people that are new or maybe feeling overwhelmed by getting into it. I'm just curious why this. Is this your personal favorite part? Is creating a fun character your personal favorite part of the process?
I love making characters. Part of that is like I do adore the act of like making a character and imagining their story. I think it's an often underrated part of like imagining fantasy stories and worlds, like especially within, I would say, like fantasy fiction or genre fiction in general. I think it's an often overlooked element, which is to say, like, I think a lot of times I've talked to a lot of creators in a lot of different spaces and worlds and doing a lot of different things. And also I've watched a lot of movies and read a lot of books and things. And a big takeaway from mine over the years has always been like, I don't know how these characters live. I don't know how, and like to me, that's a real joyful thing to kind of imagine and think about and poke and prod. A prime example of like where my brain has kind of always lived around this sort of thing. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is a movie that I love and that I will rewatch a trillion times, and I will think about it constantly on loop. It's really weird that there is no like acknowledgement of for lack of a better way to put it, car games, driving games, passenger games in the Mad Max movies. Like, there is a very weird, like, tiny little detail that when you sit and think about it, becomes more and more glaring to me of, like, this is a culture where most of what we see people do and where all of the drama is long periods of driving in the desert. Fury Road is essentially one extended drive through the desert. We get these long shots of everybody driving in sort of like terrified, stoic silence. And in my mind, when I watch that movie, like, and it's, you know, I've seen it a bunch. It is one of my favorite films. In the back of my mind, I can't help but thinking, like, why aren't they playing I Spy or something? Like I think about every time I've been in a car, even like my worst, most stressful, like difficult moments, small talk still exists. Like interior lives still exist even in the most like extreme genre environments. And I think about that a lot. And to me, that's one of the joys of something like a role-playing game where you have this time to kind of like play and grasp and experiment and imagine and sort of like visualize the worlds that these characters occupy and sort of the things that they do when plot isn't on the table. And to me, those things are really important. And so like a lot of these exercises, a lot of the goals of the book at a very high level are to kind of get you thinking about as an author, as a tabletop gamer, as a creator of whatever art you create, whatever kind of artist you are, thinking about the like the moments in between and what those little details say about your character. And like it also ties into one of my favorite things, like just in general, like a thing about fictional characters that I really love is, you know, you can look at a lot of characters and it's those weird little details that make them feel alive. And I a lot of the book, like we as TV viewers, it's, you know, it's not, it is a different, there's a marked difference between saying a character likes beer and saying that Fraser Crane's dad drinks Ballantine's beer, and that is a specific beer with a specific like reputation and a specific identity that like speaks to who he is as a person, and it informs who he is. And that's like a real detail that we as like the viewer and the watcher of the show like gravitate towards and we hold on to, and that becomes part of what we like. We know that Wolverine likes beer and cigars. Like those are very specific things. And so we can kind of like grasp onto those details. And so part of it is I love making characters in part because I like imagining the little things about a character and those tiny little details that make them feel so vibrant and alive. And then speculating on like, okay, if this is true, if this is what we think about this character, what does that mean for who they are as a person?
I love that. Speaking of, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Because there's a lot in here. If you know, listener, if you were to
close
say
to 100 exercises, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, it's almost 300 pages, or it's over 300 pages, just over. And I've got a few pages dog-eared here because I read through it, and you know, a lot of the stuff. If you were to come to me and say, write a book that's like a guide to write this, you know, write this book, this with the backstory or what's their family situation. But there's a number of sections I thought that were really unique and stuff I don't think I would have thought of. Also, I think could be really helpful in creating some interesting nuance to the character, some flavor to them. One of the first ones, though, is the old friends section. So it's one thing, it's like you think of a character and they're going to go on an adventure and you're thinking of who are their companions, who are their allies or friends on the adventure going to be, all their aspiring hero types. But thinking about who were their friends before they were this character in this adventure, and what does that say about them? That one kind of jumped out to me. Anything about that?
I think it's like that kind of goes back to my thinking about like, you know, we tried to strike a balance with the book very specifically of like imagining your characters as living, breathing people while also kind of recognizing that these are fictional constructs and that you can change details however you need to suit the actual story that you're writing. But like that one in particular, like that I think is a perfect example of like, you know, thinking about fictional characters as people with lives and as people with histories, and, you know, thinking about the ways in which like friendships change and the friendships that change when you are a kid versus the one you make as an adult, and like, you know, giving that sense of like history in motion almost is how I would put it. Like it kind of creates the sense that, you know, this is a person who was someone once. I think you put it really well of like they were a person before they were this fictional character, and I think like to me that experience or that like that level of detail adds something, like it makes it easier to visualize like who they are in different situations, because you can kind of say like this is who they are now, this is who they were at one point in their lives, I can see how they changed, I can start to visualize maybe why they changed or like what happened to kind of flesh out their lives to prompt them to change. And then I can kind of imagine the situations where suddenly they have to kind of confront who they were, or that they start to fall back into the person that they were. And like all of those things are inherently good drama.
I love it. I love this stuff.
Me too.
I think it's, again, something that can be easy to gloss over, but if you really think about it, it can maybe, and not saying you have to do it with every single character, but again, all of these things that I've dog-eared and I want to just briefly touch on are things I'm like, this can really help you find some little quirk or piece of flair for the character. The eye contact section, never would have thought, you know, what do they do? Are they someone who's always staring someone in the eyes, unwavering no matter what, if they're sad, they're angry, distracted, or how do they react? Like, are they the type to kind of look away when they're feeling like that section? I thought was really interesting. And stop me, I don't want to force you to go on a soliloquy for every one of these. But if you have something to add, stop me. But
that one was really interesting. I will talk about like where that one came from, which is that one very specifically was pulled from the one college acting class that I took of like paying attention to, you know, where you are looking, paying attention to body language and movement. There's a few other sections kind of in a similar space that are kind of pulled from again, that one class, and like from doing theater in high school and college, and like kind of being aware of where you're putting your body. Like thinking in terms of LARP was also really helpful, because I was like, you know, if you are LARPing a character and you're like, I want this character to feel like the most in your face, you know, confident, badass character that has ever walked the earth, like body language signals so much of that. If you're like locking someone in the eye and you're like focusing in and you're like not looking away and you're giving it everything, like there's such an intimidation and such a confidence that comes from that. And so like thinking about little tiny pieces of body language is something that I pay a lot of attention to. I think it may have also been that I was watching Rocky, and I find Stallone's body language in Rocky really fascinating. He does several things. He physically does several things in the movie Rocky that I think you could and someone probably has written books about his tiny mannerism.
Okay.
He is like, there's such a specific way that like Stallone, as like a muscular, intimidating guy, like intentionally makes Rocky recede back through his sort of like the hands in the pockets, and he's kind of slouching. Like he is very good at conveying like this is somebody that should be intimidating but like does not see himself in that way. And so like that's a big thing that is on my mind as I'm writing these kind of body language sections.
That's a great way of putting it. That's a great example too, because there's just so much he does where I think people forget if they only know it as the cultural zeitgeist thing and they've never actually watched it, or maybe they forget, because it does escalate as sequels tend to do with he becomes more and more inhuman hero as the sequels go on. But like in that first one, he's awkward. He's really goofy.
If you haven't seen it, listeners, if you have not seen
the scene where he's trying to like talk to Adrian through the door and he makes a key commentary on he's never talked to a door, it's like he's so awkward and kind of like goofy in the
I cannot recommend enough, listener, if you have never seen the 1977 Best Picture award-winning film Rocky, if you are only aware of the later Rocky films or the cultural context of Rocky, you should watch the 1977 Best Picture award-winning film Rocky. It's a trip. I recommend this to so many people because I'm like, you think that you know what Rocky is about, you think that you generally have an idea. You really don't. You really are not you're gonna get caught off guard.
It's one of those franchises that really is like when you look back where it is now or where it was.
This is a different.
Yes.
I say often. A thing I think about often is that there is some parallel universe where Sylvester Stallone just kept making small working class dramas about like people trying their best, like
just changing the industry,
just quiet, because like he until Rocky becomes a smash hit and then he makes Rocky 2 and First Blood Part 2, like he's just kind of making very small working class dramas, and there's something fascinating about that.
I'm now like envisioning though, like searching for Bobby Fischer, but it's Sylvester Stallone playing chess against a bunch of kids.
That would be amazing. I would watch the hell out of
that. Another section that kind of jumped out to me, because this is something that, again, we spend, I think it's kind of first thought, and second, if you're building a character, it's what's their motivation, what's the character's motivation, especially if they are the or a protagonist of a story. But this section, what others want from them. Like, what is, not just what do they want, but what do other characters in their backstory or in the story around them want from them?
It's one of the great to me that's one of the great underpinnings of drama. Like some of the great dramas are a character. I can't believe I'm about to do this. I promise that I like other movies. I promise that I think about other films. But also Rocky is also about this. But like there's so much good drama about like a character, how many teen movies, right? Like how many teen coming of age films are about a young person who is in a place where everyone wants something specific from them, but they just want to dance. Like how many stories, and I think like to that, like that's a thing that I think is a real underpinning of the book for me. There is a section early on where I talk about this very explicitly, but like a big thing for me that I'm always thinking about is like, what can I steal from everything that I love and watch? And like, if there are no original ideas, how can I meaningfully and respectfully and like appropriately channel the passions that I have and the inspirations that I have into making the show, like into making better stories. And so there is a section of the book that I love a lot that is talent borrows and genius steals, being aware of your inspirations. But like I think also to me this is a thing that is really important about like a lot of when I think about like making characters and stories is what inspires you that is in an entirely different genre space than the one that you're working in. There's a story. I think it's in the Talent Borrows Genius Steal section, unless it got edited out, and I don't remember this. If it's not, this is an exclusive lore drop if it's not actually in the book. I think about The Undertaker so much.
It's in there.
Okay,
yeah,
good. Okay. I couldn't remember. I was like, I'm gonna be so upset if the Undertaker monologue or the Undertaker paragraph doesn't make it.
Yeah.
For the listener, like the Undertaker is like his most iconic thing that he does, which is like laying on the ground and then sitting up, like without flinching. The guy who is the Undertaker saw the movie Halloween where Michael Myers does that and was like, that's cool. I'm going to use that. I'm going to put that into my character. And like, to me, that is, and like that he made it his own thing where it is now like, you know, a core piece of that character. To me, that's the coolest thing in the world. Like that kind of sense of you have taken from something in an entirely different world and genre, right? Going from horror movies to professional wrestling and going like, okay, this is a thing that I like. I'm going to figure out how I can use this in my work. To me, that is so much great, lasting, iconic art is looking at some unrelated genre or inspiration and saying like, what happens if I adapt this into the thing that I am doing? And so like thinking about what others want from them really is me looking at teen comedies and going, okay, but if I'm in a fantasy story, like my character can still have that same kind of teen movie conflict of my parents want me to go to school, but I want to be an artist.
Absolutely. I love taking, especially if you're bending the genre or switching it, because it's gonna have to, if you pluck something and you put it, obviously there is a fine line, right, between inspiration and plagiarism, but like I think all the time is it's not that hard to take something as an inspiration, put it in this new setting, and then almost by default, if you try to make it fit that new setting, you're gonna have to make tweaks and you're gonna have to make it your own.
And that's where it becomes something great. And that's where I think like the magic comes in, and where it becomes something greater than like just plagiarism or lifting an idea, is when you put in that effort and you say, okay, I like this. What happens when I add it into this new environment? How do I adapt it into this? And before you know it, like it is an entirely separate original idea that has nothing in has almost nothing in common with the original source of inspiration.
Heck yeah. Similar but different. I always like a DM tip or GM tip to folks would be like, a really easy way to have unique character voices for like your NPCs is just do your own take characters that exist from shows, movies, cartoons, and be like, this harbor master at this port is this character. And it's going to be me doing that character. I'm not a good enough impressionist where it's going to sound pitch perfect exactly like that. So it's going to be different, but it's way easier to fall into like a cadence or an accent if you have another character. Just think how X character would say, or how you would interpret X character saying this, and then you have kind of an easy character voice that you can slip into.
So one of the podcast that I do, my second podcast, All My Fantasy Children, which is all about character creation and world building and storytelling. There is a recurring character that pops up a lot on that show that the fan base is always really excited to hear, and that like has a lot of lore behind them and is really important. And they're always like, oh, Jeff, the voice you do for that character is so impressive. They are like an evil, cosmic, eternal nightmare clown. But every time they're like, oh, I hear that voice, I get so creeped out, and I just go like, it is just my version of Werner Herzog, except I'm not doing a German accent. I merely switch into a If I were to switch this into a German accent, this would be my Werner Herzog. But I remove the German accent, and so like it really truly was just. I think it's funny if this guy sounds like Werner Herzog.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah, it works every time.
Delightful. I have more. I feel like I have more of these dog-eared than we have time, but some of these that I think are just really, again, unique and I think helpful. Like would be very, very helpful in ways you might, again, that aren't necessarily first things someone would think of when creating a character. This one, again, I think when you really think about it, it might on its face seem like, oh yeah, that's kind of obvious, but like no, really think about it is what your character keeps in their wallet, or at least on their person.
I love that. One of my favorites in the book is what your character has in their pockets. Is great.
Because I think it's so easy to gloss over if you are and really think of them as not. They only have things that sort of serve the story you're trying to tell, but that's not real. That's not. They would have other stuff. They don't only have their weapon and the stone that their grandfather gave them, which is going to be the MacGuffin that at the climax. That say, they would have other stuff with them. I think about it all the time of like on epic journeys, adventure, fantasy or sci-fi journeys. I'm like, well, they got to eat. They go to the bathroom. They probably smell like garbage. Like, do they bathe? Do they change their clothes? Or what other things would they have on themselves? Really think about that. This is a person. This is not just a robot.
I came into that section really like thinking about like, what do you have on your person? Like imagine you are out and about on your day. Like, what do you have in your, like, what's in your wallet right now? Like, what's in your purse? Like, thinking about like, what's in my wallet at this moment that like, I'm like, oh, well, there's a lot of like gift cards and like, I think one of the options in that section is, several sandwich shop coupons that all kind of average up to about 10 punches, which is fully a real detail because I forget that I go to like sandwich shops and I get a new punch card and I end up with 4 punch cards each.
That informs a character's personality.
Exactly. There's so much to like who that character, like that decision, right? This character has a bunch of punch cards from a bunch of sandwich shops. That's character to me. That's character. There's little details. You know who that person is. Maybe you are that person.
I can extrapolate. I feel like I can extrapolate so much from that. Like, oh, I've got 4 different sandwich shop cards. This one's got 1 punch. This one has 2, and all between 1 to 3 punches in them. And someone was like, I have 1. It's unbent. I use it. I get my 10 punches. I get a new one. I'm like, if you told me nothing else about a person than that, their sandwich shop loyalty card status, I feel like I could make some educated guesses about who they are as a character just based on that and nothing else.
Like it really just it's that sense of, those details. Like character often is found in the things that we don't think about. To me, that's a really key underpinning of the book. And like, you don't really think about what's in your pocket, but like exactly like you said, I can look at what's in somebody's pocket and you can like learn who they are in the same way that like you can look at how someone is standing and like learn little pieces of who they are. You can like all of these things are about like, yes, you have a character. Yes, they are a fictional character and they're going to fit the story and the arc and the genre that you have in mind. But like those little details will also tell you so much about who they are in moment to moment. And then in turn, that'll tell you when you don't know what they'll do next. Those are the little details. Like if I don't know what a character is going to do in a given moment, but I know that they are the kind of person that like aggressively collects business cards, I can kind of step back and say, okay, this person is in like a dangerous, high stakes social environment. They are an aggressive collector of business cards. Their wallet is stuffed to the brim with business cards. This is probably somebody that is desperate to glad hand, for lack of a better way to put it. This is somebody that like almost as a default wants to shake. So like there is a sense of like, okay, so this character is immediately like making friends and kind of being maybe a little bit overly aggressive with trying to latch on to people. I can see that, and then I can go, and then I can see how that situation is going to spiral when they start like trying to shake hands with people that they shouldn't be. Like all of those kind of drama decisions come from the fact that I can see these little details and I know the kind of person that speaks to.
I'm just trying to network with the Dark Lord.
We're trying to network. I'm trying to network.
And the last one I want to touch on, and listener, we are barely scratching the surface of all these exercises of this book. So you need to go, if this has intrigued you at all, you need to go get yourself a copy. But the last one, again, it was just something I don't think I would have thought of, but if you really take the time and think about the overall concept and then the individual questions you lay out, is what you could learn something about yourself or about the character that you didn't really think was there, and that's cloud watching.
Cloud watching was, I think, maybe the third thing that I wrote for the book.
Okay.
Because like I knew I wanted a lot of the book to be fill in the blank. I knew I wanted a lot of the book to be like checklists and pick lists, because like to someone who is completely new to sort of like gaming and imagining in this space. Like I wanted it to be as approachable as possible, but I also knew that I did just want some like activity kind of ones in there, or like things that are weird. And I do think genuinely like cloud watching being very literally what it says on the tin. Listener, like I can't express how literal we are being when we're talking about cloud watching.
And that seems like, but really it seems so simple of a straightforward as imagine this character going cloud watching or being sort of that you have to go do this activity. And then you have these 10 questions you lay out that honestly, like if you, again, similar to the context of their wallet or their person, if you did nothing else and you just went to this section and you answered these 10 questions about what a character would do for the activity of cloud watching or how they would approach it, and whether it's their mentality about it, are they bringing stuff, all these questions you lay out, and then you answer these 10 questions and you did literally nothing else, you could hand that to someone and I feel like they could get like, oh, I know something about this character. You've given me some real insight. Yeah.
Because like what you're doing at that point is you're really just like imagining how your character imagines, and that's going to put you into their point of view, and that is going to like show you how they see the world. And the second half of that, which I really like adore, again, the joy of like having a book go through the editing process and like the publication cycle, meaning that all of these things happened a year ago, is that I keep having these conversations and then going, wait, did the thing that I'm about to describe make it into if it didn't, great. There's a second, or there was originally, maybe it's still there, I don't know, a second section to that activity, which was very literally like, now that you've done it, now that you like can imagine how your character interprets clouds, go outside and watch the clouds for a while, like, and see what your character sees when you yourself are watching the clouds. And the reason for that is like, see the world through your character's perspective, experience how they experience things, to kind of understand like where their mind is at a given moment. And that's going to tell you so much about like how they interact with the world.
I think that is a beautiful sentiment. I regret to inform you, it sounds like, it looks, as I'm looking at the pages, it looks like it was a victim of the editor machine.
Yeah. Well, exclusive scoop. Hey, listener, you should go look at some clouds and imagine things.
I like to think of, can we get that going as a positive? Because I feel like telling someone to go touch grass is kind of like a negative. Right. A discount can go cloud watching or go watch some clouds, being as in, I want you to do something for yourself, for your mental health. It's like, I mean this not dismissively or insultingly, as in I want you to go have some introspection in an uplifting, and I mean that I want the best for you. It's kind of like the positive flip side to the phrase "go touch grass."
I really like that. No, that's fantastic.
Like, as I said a moment ago, listener, those are just a small handful percentage of the different exercises and really introspective questions that this book lays out that can really help you take your character creation. Again, this could be for a TTRPG campaign. This could be for a book or a screenplay or some other piece of content you're creating. But these are some, again, and not saying you have to do all of these for every character, but just finding, I guarantee you, this is something that could help you really round out characters, especially even not just main characters. And I would say even pick a random one of these sections for a side character in a story and just do one of these for them. And that can tell you so much about them and maybe help them come across as more real and tactile and believable to your audience. This is a really fun book. It's peppered with lots of delightful, charming commentary by our author here, Jeff. So it's not just homework. It's not just a giant book of creative homework. It's entertaining as well. And go, Jeff. Where can people go find the ultimate fantasy character creator?
You can find it really wherever you get your books. You can go to your favorite local indie bookstore. You can go to your local library. And if they don't have it, you can request them to pick it up. You should get a library card. Side note, that's just a great thing to
Absolutely.
have. You can go to your local library. You can go to a local independent bookstore. You can also get it on Amazon or SimonandSchuster.com. I will shout out if you've purchased the book, if you enjoy it, give it a rating and review on Amazon. Those things are really helpful in the world that we live in these days. But like, you can get it wherever you get books, which is like a surreal thing that I'm saying out loud and starting to process. And
Yeah.
it's great. It rules.
Yeah. Here it is. A couple states away from you.
That's so cool.
In my hands. But yes, the second, I'd say the first thing you can do to support an author you appreciate is buy their book.
Mm-hmm.
The very close second thing you can do is leave a dang review
Yes.
on Amazon, Goodreads, wherever. Leave a review. You have no idea. There's certain thresholds. Once you get certain numbers of reviews, your exposure explodes. It's incredibly helpful. We may include, Jeff, if you have, after this, if you have a specific link, obviously, yes, support your local library, support your local bookstores. But beyond that, we'll probably include a link in the show notes. So check those out as like a third option. Library, local bookstore, definitely support them. But if they don't, or if for some reason it's not available, there'll be a link to go ahead and get yourself a copy of Jeff Stormer's The Ultimate Fantasy Character Creator. Jeff, thank you so much for being here with us. Do you have anything else you want to shout out, plug, social media, your website, any other projects? You've mentioned a couple podcasts.
Yeah. You can check out Party of One. That's the main podcast I produce at partyofonepodcast.com. You can check out, find all of the other shows that I make and the podcasts that I make. If you like this book, you would love All My Fantasy Children, which is a podcast where my best friend Aaron Catano Saez and I make a new fantasy character every week based on a listener prompt. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. Or you can follow me on social media, primarily on, pretty much anywhere at either Jeff Stormer or Party of One Pod, but primarily on Blue Sky at jeffstormer.gobirds.online.
Thank you so much, Jeff. This was a delightful conversation. Listener, thank you so much for being here with us. And now it's time to go forth, build worlds, tell stories, slay monsters. Bye, y'all.